Welcome to this week's episode of The Successful Stylist Unfoiled, and I am so excited about my guest today. She is a friend of mine, first and foremost, but someone I've been really lucky to have worked alongside for the last few years. And the thing that I wanted to talk, so we're talking to Jess Sutherland, and the thing I wanted to talk to her about when I first thought of chatting with her for this was, she's quite experienced in photo shoots and she's won awards and educates for a massive franchise, Rock Ebony. But where the conversation really led with her was how she started and how she got into it, and that hairdressing wasn't what she started with, and that was always her dream, but felt a little bit of that pressure from family and friends and all these things that wasn't good enough. And that is the really a big thing that I want to break down with this show and show that there's so much more that you can do than what people think of us working in a salon in the mall is all that you do as a hairdresser. And there's so much more. And we really dove into her beginnings and that she actually worked through multiple salons, which I actually wasn't aware of. I think sometimes once someone becomes a little bit more known in the industry, you associate them with the salon that they're at and think that that's, where they started. And that's actually not the case. And kind of showed that sometimes we think that those big salons and those high-end salons are more well-known are unattainable as well, not just these dreams of being on stage or we think that those salons are too good for us. And I think to hear from someone like Jess, who is so well known, that she felt like that before she applied for the job at Rock Ebony was really interesting to me to hear. So not only will we be talking about her achievements and her awards that she's won and her photo shoots and how she, has developed an education curriculum and all these things, but I really enjoyed the conversation of how she began and started, and that we all have these fears, I think, that we're maybe not good enough for that next step. And it just goes to show that you are, and if you want it and if you're hungry for it, those goals can be achievable. So pop us in to myself and Jess, and we did have one little technical difficulty. It's hard. I think everybody is working from home right now and the Wi-Fi went a little bit glitchy. And it is also allergy season in Melbourne, y'all. So, I've got a little bit of a sniffle and I had to blow my nose and I had a few sneezes. So it's just the raw, authentic hay fever season. So bear with, apologies, but well worth listening to Jess. Thanks. Okay, so today I really was going to make a point of not starting okay, because that's how I start every episode. And I was like, don't do that this time. And yet here we are. I've done it. But today I am talking with the one and only Jess Sutherland.
Hello.
So exciting. When I thought of this idea, you were definitely on the list of people that I wanted to chat with. And I think that has so much insight and like wisdom to give. And sometimes, we don't always hear from us. Like it seems to be a lot of the same people. And I was like, I just want to have conversations with people that I think, one, deserve to talk, and two, that have so much to say. So I definitely wanted you, and I've had the pleasure of working with you for quite a while. Miss that.
Yes, you have. Thank you so much for asking me to be on here. It's
Thank you for
a
making
bit
the time.
confronting, but I like it.
So I think we'll just dive in. And what I've really enjoyed about this too is that before I do an episode, I get the person and yourself to send me a bio, and it's given me like a very interesting way of learning more about people who are like, my friends, but I'm like, oh, I didn't know that Jess went to graphic design school, or all these things, or that I didn't know that you went to 3 different places during your apprenticeship and all these things. So I'm really enjoying that. I think there's a backstory that we don't know that I would love to ask you about. So did you go to school for graphic design, or how did that kind of happen and then transition into hairdressing?
I did. So basically I finished high school. I finished year 12. My parents didn't want me to drop out, obviously, and in hindsight, I'm glad. I finished high school, had no idea what I was going to do. I did want to do hairdressing, and I wanted to do hairdressing when I was 16.
Oh,
But
really?
again, yeah, my parents absolutely not. Did
So
not want me to
funny.
do it at all.
Which is exactly why I
So
also want to have
yeah,
these conversations, because that's what I had said in the beginning. Like, there's this stigma around hairdressing and being like, oh, you're going to be a
yeah,
hairdresser. And it's like, look at what
yeah,
you're doing. Look at what we're able to do if you're aware and have the desire to want to do more. And it's just so not seen like that at a consumer maybe level, that they think you're just working in the
yeah,
shopping center at doing hair. And there's
yeah,
so much more. And that's exactly why you're the perfect candidate, to have this. So that's amazing.
yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, so my parents didn't want me to do it at all. And I mean, I think in Australia it has quite a big stigma against hairdressing. So I didn't do it. I worked in retail. I switched retail jobs to the point that my grandmother still says to me, "Do you think you're going to stay at this job?" um,
That's the
it's been
classic
6.5
granny.
years,
My
but
granny used to be like, but what are you going to do after this?
yeah,
What do you mean
yeah,
after
exactly
this?
right.
This is this. This is it.
Exactly right. Yeah, so I basically was working in retail, hating it. I got a job in an office, absolutely hated that even more. So I went back to retail and I started doing graphic design, because ideally I would have been an artist. Like that's what I like doing the most, but you don't make money off that until you're dead. So I I decided to do graphic design, which when I started it, I thought it was going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And a few months in, I realized that everything in graphic design was computer based these days. And you don't actually really do much art. It's more art by clicking buttons and doing things on the computer. It's not hand drawing anything. So I dropped out of that.
And were you in college for that, or like you
so I
registered for that?
worked all day, like a 9 to 5 job in an office, and then I would work and do it as night school. So it was still TAFE, and it was a Cert 4 or something like that.
Cool.
But oh no, sorry, it was a diploma. But yeah, I dropped out of that after 6 months. Ended up with like a $12,000 HECS debt for 6 months. So it wasn't really a great life choice, but I suppose it taught me what I didn't want to do. So
yeah, totally.
Not too bad.
And then how did you end up in hairdressing from there?
So basically I went back to retail again, hating it. And I ended up working at a party shop, which was kind of fun for retail as far as it goes, but I had to blow up balloons every single day, and I become really allergic to latex.
Oh.
And I was getting like rashes and my fingers were bleeding. And then finally I worked out that I was allergic to latex and I had to quit this job. And I was like, oh my God, all right, well, it's probably about time that I do something that I'm going to do. So I just thought I'm going to do hairdressing. And I applied for pretty much any hairdressing job that I could get, because I was, 19 and a half, 20 and paying rent, and I had to have a job. So I just applied for any job that would give me the job. And for everybody that gave me a call back, like I just said, yes, yes, yes. And I finally got a call back from a salon in Hawthorne, which I was living in Ringwood at the time, which is a big drive.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't know what you could do in hairdressing. Like I didn't realize it could be anything bigger than a job at, the local shopping centre. So
I think that's how we all go into it.
Yeah, I had no idea. So I just took whatever job, and anyone that would give me a job. And there was a lot of salons that didn't call me back. Like a lot of salons that I did trials for, or that I went to and never heard from them again.
Interesting. And what were you was this for like an apprenticeship, or what were you going in to do? Because it's very different. So obviously I'm Australian. Here in Canada it's quite different, and you go to hair school and you get a diploma, do a full program, kind of like a TAFE, I guess. Whereas here you kind of get hired, and I think you can do that in Canada too. I just wasn't as aware of it. Here you get hired. So you would have been applying saying, I'm looking to start an apprenticeship.
Yeah. So here you have to get a job first. Yeah, so you have to get a job, and then survive 3 months of the job, and then they will sign you up to do an apprenticeship, so to do
Cool.
your training. So most people don't really do it as a course here. Some people do, but to do it as a course, it costs a lot of money, and
Yeah.
most of the time people don't want to hire you because you come out technically qualified, but with a lot less experience than
Yeah,
anybody
I
else. There's
totally
very
agree. I completely agree.
few people. Yeah, there's very few people that I know. There are definitely some people that have come out and done amazing, but there's very few people that I know that have actually not had to take a step back and start again.
Yeah.
That way.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, so I got the job. I basically got offered the job, but only on the condition that I started the next day. So I couldn't give my job that I hadn't even told that I was planning on resigning any more than about an
The
hour's
balloon
notice that I was quitting.
allergy place.
Yeah, the balloon allergy place.
Like,
And
look at
they
me
were
again.
awesome.
I gotta go.
Yeah, exactly. I just said, so I decided to be a hairdresser, and they said I have to start tomorrow. So unfortunately, when I leave in an hour, you won't see me again. But that was the end of the job. I hadn't told my parents or anything that I've even applied for these jobs. So I literally got home from work that day and rang my mum and was like, so I've decided I'm going to be a hairdresser, and I've quit my job and I start tomorrow. So yeah, and I'm probably going to need $1,000 to start the schooling as well. So
And how did that go over? What was the
it was, at the time, I copped a lot for it from everybody, not just my parents, from everybody that I spoke to was like, really? You're better than that. What a cop out. Like, that's all I copped. But I think it was that was the fuel in me to make me want to prove everyone wrong. I always have wanted to do that. Like, I've always wanted to prove my parents wrong, and I've always wanted to prove
excel. And if I'm
everyone
gonna
wrong.
do
So
this, I'm gonna be the best at doing it.
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, at that point in my life, I'd never really been the best at anything. So, except for maybe colouring competitions, that was what I was really good at. And from the
You are
newspaper.
not aware how similar we are. I won coloring competitions, and I always say this about myself. I'm like, I never had anything that I was good at. Like, I played soccer,
Yeah.
I played the clarinet, and I tried the
Yeah.
drums and guitar, and like I
Yeah.
tried everything. And my best friend Carissa is so artistic, and she's the best drawer, and we'd be in class together, and
Yeah.
mine would look like shit and hers would be so good. And I'm like, all I want to do is be good at it. And it's the same
Yeah.
thing. And you're not good
Yeah.
at maybe anything. There's those people who
Yeah.
naturally have that, and I never
Yeah.
did until this. And same for you. It's so interesting.
Yeah. I was always okay at things, and I was, I'm quite good at drawing, and I'm quite good at colouring, and I was mediocre or a bit better than average on a lot of things, but I wasn't like first place winner on anything.
And now look at you.
Yes, well, so I started hairdressing, and to be honest, the first job that I had, it was really hard. It was a really hard position for me to be in because I was older than everybody else, except for maybe one girl that worked at the salon, but
like
I
in your
was
same
the
level?
bottom rank. No, nobody. So at the salon that I started at, it was a small salon. They had about 5 or 6 hairdressers or something. So there was sort of the boss, the manager, one other senior, and then a first year, second year, and a third year apprentice.
Okay.
So they were very old school in the way that they ran their salon. And yeah, there was a very strict list of jobs that each level had to do every day. And the first year apprentice was basically the shit kicker. Like, that's all they did. They cleaned every day. Like, Monday, you cleaned the brushes and, the bases of the chairs. And Tuesday, you cleaned all the skirting boards. And Wednesday, you folded foil. But, like, there was a lot of jobs. And you did the same jobs every single day. And you had such a strict routine of everything that you had to do. You had to do the shampoos. You had to remember every client's name. You had to remember what products and what tool that hairdresser used on that client and have it sitting there by the time that client was due back in the chair.
Yeah.
If that client wasn't there in the chair, like, you were dead. Like
Yeah.
that was it. You were
Yeah.
done. Like, so, and I mean, at the time I used to go home and cry almost every night, but now I'm really happy that I did have an apprenticeship like that, because, I mean, I only stayed there from December till about the start of August. So only for the very first bit of my first year, but it was a really good base to learn from, as hard as it was. But my reason for leaving there wasn't because it was hard. I mean, every day that I did on that, I knew that I had a 3-year apprenticeship that I was doing. And I knew like every day I'd go home falling apart, I would be like, okay, I've got 3 years. That's one less day that I've got to go. Like every day I'd be like, one less day, one less day. That's one more day I don't have to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the reason I left was more because of the competition side of things. And when I started going to trade school, which I went to Box Hill Institute, which was amazing.
And so you were doing that because you were in an apprenticeship. So you do part of it at a salon, and then you have to do part of it at something like that.
So you work 4 days a week in the salon, and 1 day a week you go to tape, which that was my favorite day of the week. Like I absolutely loved tape. I got through it really quickly. Like in, I think it was 13 months or something, I did my whole apprenticeship. I had to work out the 3 years because my boss didn't want to sign me off.
Oh no, sorry. Oh, it's allergy season. Hay fever.
It's here.
We'll edit that little part out.
That's okay. Keep it.
Oh God.
Where was
so
that?
Does the salon pick what TAFE you go to? Like, is there different options, or like how does that happen where you end up?
Some do. Some salons say, and they're affiliated with a certain school, so you have to go there. My salons that I was at, being a small salon, didn't really care. Okay, cool. I picked Box Hill because it was closer to my house.
And is that the Aveda one that I have?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's not the Aveda Institute anymore, I don't think, but back then it was Aveda.
Cool.
Which I absolutely loved that day of the week. Like as I started getting towards the end of my apprenticeship, I started like purposely messing up assessments so I didn't have to go back to working in the salon 5 days a week.
And why do you think that you didn't like the salon as much? Like what made you like?
Because I didn't do any hair. In the salon I was a cleaner. I was, all I did was make coffee and clean. So when I was at TAFE and I was good at what I was doing, and they, moved me along so quickly, that I actually felt like a hairdresser.
Yeah.
So that's why I love TAFE, and everybody was
because
really
you actually
nice.
got to do what you were wanting to do. You're not doing towels and shampoos.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not even towels and shampoos. Like a lot of the time I didn't even do the towels and shampoos. I was a cleaner.
Yeah. I was a cleaner too.
Scrubbing.
Salon. I was literally housekeeping. Like not even an assistant or an apprentice. Housekeeping.
Absolutely. Yeah. My favorite memory, well, my least favorite, but my funniest memory is mopping the floors on a Saturday. And I remember all the seniors, everybody except for the lowest rank, had to mop the floor of the salon while everybody else sat on their chairs with their feet on their chair. And they would watch you. Yeah, but mop to the grain of the wood. And if you slightly went off the grain of the wood, where like on the black smear it would leave a smear, they'd be like, nope, start again. And they'd just sit there and watch until you were done. And all your phones had to go in the front desk, and you couldn't tell anyone that, you were running 2 hours late from work. So you just had to keep on going until it was done.
You're so right about that your phone, now it's like we're allowed to have our phones on the floor most of the time, I think. Well, maybe not, but I do, because I'm doing before and afters, or you're filming, or social media's come into place. But you're so right. When we started, you weren't allowed your phone, and that's exactly right. You're running late. My dad used to wait, outside at the front for same thing, and have no idea where you are, because you still. I remember, it's so funny. I forgot all this stuff. I used to hate cleaning the shampoo out of the shampoo holder in between the basin. And I knew if the
Yeah.
manager came around, I'd be like, oh, make sure that that's wiped because that takes so long.
Yeah.
And then that's going
I
to, and
know.
you get stuck. You can't leave until it's done. Whereas now I feel
No,
like 9 o'clock out the door. Like that is not what it was like.
absolutely. No, not at all. It was, you wait until the boss has decided he's going to stop taking clients, and you
Yeah, there was no
smile
end
and put your
time.
hands behind your back, and you just stand and watch and look like you're admiring what he's doing until he's done. Like that's what
Look
you
like
do.
I care about that ugly haircut that you've been doing
Exactly.
since 1965.
Pretty
Oh,
much.
that's so funny.
Yeah. So yeah, the reason I left that salon was mainly because obviously at school I was doing so well, and I got asked to do, and this kind of glides into how I started doing competitions.
Love it.
I didn't know competitions was even a thing until this time, but there was a big competition on at Box Hill called World Skills.
Okay.
And I don't know, I can't remember a lot of details about it, to be honest. I don't know how often it run, but it was like something where it would run in a lot of different countries, and they picked people from all the different hairdressing schools, like one or two people, and they all competed, and whoever won for Australia on that day then had to compete against the rest of the world's winners.
Oh my God, cool. And that was through
Yeah,
your TAFE.
that was through Box Hill. I think it was, I don't know if all hairdressing TAFEs did it or whether it was just like public ones, or I have no idea.
Yeah.
But my teacher had asked me to do this competition, and I'd never done any hair on real live people before.
Oh, really?
I don't think I'd never done a haircut. Like I'd never done a haircut on, I don't even think a mannequin, aside from cutting, my brother and his friends and everybody's hair at home, but like not, I hadn't done any hair cutting training or color, like I hadn't done anything. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. She was like, yeah, you can do it. You can do it.
And when someone's giving you that confidence too, you're like, I can't say no. She thinks I'm good enough. Like, I got to do it. Like,
absolutely. And I was like, of course I'm going to do it. Like, why wouldn't I do it? Even if I make the biggest mistake of my life doing this, like, well, who cares? Yeah. And yeah, I took this back to my salon that I was working at the time, and I was like, I just need to be taught. I needed to be taught how to basically cut a straight line, and I needed to be taught how to do scissor over comb, because one of the categories for the competition was that you had to do scissor over comb from skin. So you basically had to do a skin fade from scissor over comb, which I'd never done scissor over comb in my life. No, never. But I was like, I can do this. So I took this back to the salon, and when I said that I wanted to do it, and could you teach me? I'll do it in my own time. And they pretty much said no, and said, we don't want you. They were like, we'd really just rather you be the cleaner. So I was like, okay, that
gotta go.
That was, yeah. So I mean, they did teach me here and there, like maybe one day after work. I think they could see how disappointed I was, and they were like, all right, fine. Yeah. We'll teach you one day, and sort of did that. But yeah, I basically got told that I only got asked because I was a brown noser rather than being good. So that was when I was like, right, I gotta go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I moved salons not long after that. I entered the competition. I did terribly. I did my first haircut on a man and a woman in that competition. Like I didn't even practice on a person before. It was my first person on that day.
Did they know that? Did the people know that?
Yeah. They knew. Everybody, like, they were my friends, and
oh my God,
yeah, they didn't care. I had to do a color, a women's cut, a men's cut, and this hair up that was like a ridiculous, it was almost like a flower arrangement in hair. It was actually really cool. And there was another girl that works at one of the other salons who's doing really well in her career, Alex. She works at Joey Scandizzo now, and we were both in this competition. She was a lot more ahead in her apprenticeship than me, but
so it wasn't like it was different levels. Like some people had experience, and you just kind of your teacher asked you to do it, and you had no experience. So it's not like you were with people who had all never cut before.
No. Everybody else had experience. I was by far the least experienced in that competition.
That is so
by far. I'm not really sure why my teacher believed in me that much, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't awful. My men's haircut, loved his haircut, and I continued cutting his haircut after that.
Amazing.
So yeah, that kind of answers the question of why I left my first salon, and also how I
double whammy.
got into competitions.
Because you don't know that exists until you're exposed to it, and then you're in a place that isn't participating in that and isn't at that level, and you're like, well, this is just not going to be for me. If that's what I need to be doing, I need to be with the best.
Yeah. And I after that, I saw the competitions and saw how fun it was, and was like, I can get paid to do this. What? Like, amazing. This is basically art school with a salary, even if it isn't that much at this time. So it was fun, and it fueled me to want to keep doing that stuff rather than being, the salon cleaner.
And then now you work at Rock Ebony, which is a massive franchise. Franchise would be the word?
Yes. Yes.
Here
it's not a franchise. It's all owned, but by the same
family,
people, so it's not
family run, which is where
I
started my career in Melbourne, and moving to Australia. It was like, that was when I was looking up where I was going to apply from overseas, and I also had Australian friends while I was in Canada, and being like, where should I be looking for jobs like this? I want to apply before I move, and this and that. And Rock Ebony was this constant name that kept getting brought up, and that's where you are. And so maybe how did you end up there, and how long have you been there, and what's your role?
Okay, well, how did I end up there? So after I left this salon, the first salon that I started at, I went to another salon, and to be honest, I never actually really applied for a job. I never applied for another job after that. It was just like, I have to leave. And one of the girls that I went to school with, I was hanging out with her after work one day, and we stopped in at the salon that she worked at, and I spoke to her boss, and her boss was cool and was like, do you want a job? Like, yeah, of course, like, come and work here. So I was like, okay, great. And it was in Templestowe, which again was closer to my house, and that's kind of the excuse I used to leave my job before that. But so I went and worked there, and it was awesome. It was completely different to the salon that I worked at first, and I think they were really stoked to have me there, because I was so used to cleaning. She gave me a few jobs to do for the day, and I'd have them done within 15 minutes. And she was like,
because you're used to having so much more.
What? Like, but this was pretty much a one-man show. Like, the only senior that I worked with was the boss, and there was me and a few other apprentices, but the other apprentices kind of come and go all the time. Nobody really lasted longer than 3 months, so I was pretty much consistently the only hairdressing employee for the whole 3 years, and I stayed there for my whole apprenticeship and qualified there. But because it was only a one-man show, I had clients by that Christmas. I was pretty much fully booked, doing blow waves, and every haircut and color that I did was on. So like, my first foils was because a girl resigned and didn't show up to work, and there was clients booked in, and they went, how do you think you'll go with foils? I was like, I don't know. And they're like, all right, off you go, you'll be fine, surely. Like,
and was it fine?
The color. I whacked them in. Look, the client paid and had no idea that she was a test dummy, but now I'd probably die.
But it's having that ambition that sets people apart as well. Like, a lot of people would never do it, and I think that's a bit me, being like, oh my god, no, I can't do it if I'm not going to do it 100%. Whereas other people will dive in, and that's how you learn.
It absolutely is. And it's my mother's pet peeve how much I'm just like, yeah, she'll be fine. Like, it'll work out. What's the worst that can happen? Like, people are dying overseas. I'm sure, even if your foils are awful, nobody's going to die. It's not going to be the end of the world. We'll be like, ooh, that didn't work out so well, and continue on. And now I can see that was probably not the best idea. But again, in my whole hairdressing, I don't think I've ever had a real disaster that was like a life-changing issue, So basically from then on, like 3 months in, I just started building a clientele. Every haircut that I would do, I would look at the photo and be like, looks like a bit of this and a bit of that, and just wing it. You reckon you can cut a bob? Yeah, sure. Bang, bang, bang. Like, everything that I did was winging it for my whole apprenticeship. And all of my trade school, because I was doing that, I took all of my exams for trade school, there was a way that you could do it that if your boss thought that you were competent in that, in what you were doing, you could just go ahead and take the exam, and if you passed first go, you were signed off. So I did my whole cutting in one day and got it all signed off and passed everything, like with over 98% or whatever, and bang, 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 you're a cutter in one day. So yeah, I mean, I could cut and I could pretty confidently look at any picture and be like, yeah, I'll give that a crack. Like, there wasn't anything that I wouldn't give a go. But then by the time I qualified, you know, I had to go to another salon and try and explain what I was doing. I remember when I was doing my technical trials for Rock Ebony, and they'd say, okay, explain what you were doing. And I was like, I don't know.
I just
pulling that hair out
and I just do it.
Yeah, like it looks like it should go there. So that's where I cut it. Like I had no technical knowledge really whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that was quite difficult. But yeah, so the way I ended up at Rock Ebony was I left that salon probably a month or two after I qualified in my apprenticeship. I just didn't
was
think
that like a bit frowned upon? Were they like quite upset, kind of like, oh, you've used us for your apprenticeship and gone, or it was kind of understood that that's what?
I think so. I don't know. I don't really want to speak badly about anybody, but I leaving there was probably more for my own personal growth. To be honest, like it was a tough one. It was like I just didn't. After 3 years, I felt like I was done.
Yeah, that's a long time somewhere too. Like,
yeah, and you shouldn't feel like that when you've just finished an apprenticeship. It should be the start of your career. But I think because I'd been doing clients for 3 years, it was really like I was a senior for 3 years. Like I didn't in that 3 years, I wasn't doing anything as if I was an apprentice.
Yeah.
So everybody cleaned, and well, there was two of us, so we cleaned together. We did everything together. So it wasn't really. It was basically like I just worked there for 3 years.
And then to get a job at a place like a Rock Ebony, like I'm familiar with the application process, but people might not be. That you send your CV kind of, or your Instagram or something, and then you have to go and do. I think that's something that people don't get, maybe who aren't in the hair industry. They're like, oh, like how do you apply for a job? And it's like you apply the same way everybody else does, but you have to actually do models, and they give you exactly what you said, like explain what you're doing, and then this is this. So that was quite challenging for you, kind of having to explain it.
So I had another job in there for a couple of months in between, because I just I went and worked for myself or on my own for about 3 months in between at a salon that was a tanning studio. And they just had like a section that they decided to do hair because solariums were getting banned. So they were like, oh, what are we going to do? They thought they were going to start hairdressing, and I worked there for a few months. A lot of my clients followed me, not because I personally took all their phone numbers and rang them, but with social media these days, you can kind of find anybody. And I worked there for a while, and I was, again, a bit like, oh, this is a bit boring, but it was all right. It seemed like I had some career prospects, and to work somewhere like Rock Ebony, like I had heard it. And I remember at my old salon, we used to sit on the computer and like look up all the photos of all their work and their new salon. And one of the girls that I ended up coming and working at Rock Ebony with, we used to sit and Google it on our computer in the salon that was in Kew and Templestowe, and just be like, wow, how amazing would it be to work there? But like,
and that's exactly why I want to have these conversations, because even somewhere like that, never mind getting into education and photo shoots, working at the big salon can seem very daunting. And that's where I started in Canada, was this big, massive, like, oh my God, you work at Donato's? Like, it was just this thing, and it feels like you can't get in. And that's why I wanted, interesting that 100%. You've gone from other places and felt like that and got in at Rock and did it. So
absolutely. It never seemed like it was somewhere where little old me would get a job. I was never like, I should send my resume in. I never thought I would even try, to be honest. And me back then is a very different person to who I am now, and I wasn't very confident. I kind of just didn't even think of it. But so when I left this job, obviously the girl that I worked with, who was one of my best friends at the time, was like, well, I'm not going to stay if you're not staying. So when I went to work for myself, she had the balls to apply for Rock Ebony, and she was an apprentice still. And so she applied for Rock Ebony and got the job. And I was like, shit, like, that's amazing. Like, I'm so jealous of you. Like, this is such a great opportunity for you. And I was so proud of her and thought it was the most amazing thing ever. But I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, I wish I could do that. And basically she got nominated for Apprentice of the Year, which when I was at Box Hill TAFE, I didn't mention that before, I won Student of the Year and Apprentice of the Year. So Apprentice of the Year for the hairdressers, and I won Student of the Year for everybody that goes to Box Hill TAFE. So
oh my God, amazing.
Out of any trade, I was on the front cover of their book for that year. That was pretty funny.
Wow.
Anyway, so when I went to support the other girl that I was working with as like her guest for, you know, being a finalist for Apprentice of the Year. Obviously her boss from Rock Ebony went, and maybe she did it on purpose, maybe not, I don't know, but we got sat next to each other, which was Joe, who now runs Malvern Rock Ebony. We got sat next to each other at the table in this like formal dining room, and we were just kind of sitting there, and I just sat there quietly because, again, at that time I didn't really say anything unless I was spoken to. And he looked at me and he said, what do you do? At the time I had like my head pretty much shaved from here down and a mohawk, and it was pretty damn obvious that I was a hairdresser. And I said, oh, I'm a hairdresser, and all the teachers from my TAFE were sitting on that table as well with me, and they just started up being like, oh my God, you should hire her. She's amazing. She won this award. She took this out. Like, you should hire her. You absolutely need to have her. Like, they, you know, really backed me, and I was just like dying.
Oh my God. Yeah. When you're like nervous and when you're still at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember he just looked at me and he went, you know, and you would know in the way that he does, looked at me and said, you want a job? You call me. And I was like, okay. And I like didn't really say anything else about it, and he kind of disappeared that night, and I didn't really get to speak to him at all. And that night I went home and didn't sleep for the whole night. Like, I literally set my alarm, but I didn't even need to, because my eyeballs were like all night waiting to hit 9 a.m. And at 9 a.m. I think I called him like 5 times over and over again, like not knowing that his salon opened at 9:45. Like, I was just constantly calling. And yeah, I rang him and was like, I want a job. Oh, by the way, it's the girl you spoke to last night. And
oh my God, good on you for voting.
Yeah, like that. I was like, this is my only opportunity on something that I never thought I'd ever have the chance to. Like, I was a girl in Ringwood who didn't have a lot of money, and, you know, hadn't come from a place that would ever be an opportunity to work in Toorak. Like, yeah, absolutely not. So yeah, he said, come in for your interview. And I came in for an interview. I left work on a Saturday and drove to Toorak, which I'd never, ever been to Toorak before. Like, I was driving my little Toyota Echo through the streets being like, my God, I can't park my car here. Like, I'm going to dirty these streets. Like, I can't. I was like, as I was driving down the street, and got there and took my folio of my work that I'd done, all my Instagram photos printed out in a plastic pocket folder, and had my interview. And yeah, he kind of got to the end of the interview and was, I always tell everybody this because it's so funny, especially if you know him, like flipping the pages of my folio and being like, did you do this? Mm-hmm. Okay. What about this? Did you do this? It's like, yeah, it's in my folio.
Telling it to you if I didn't do it.
I had no idea. Like, of course it'd be, you know, in my folio. I had no idea whether he thought it was good or bad. And then he just shut the book and went, and stopped silent for like what felt like an hour, but I reckon it was about 5 minutes. And then he went, all right, what you're going to do is you're going to get 12 models by Monday, and you're going to go to South Melbourne. Here's 12 photos, and you need to recreate these 12 photos on 12 models.
It's very intimidating, isn't it? Very daunting.
Yeah. The process to get a job there now isn't as tough. They're actually a lot not nicer, but a lot more warming to everybody coming in. I think maybe it was just my perspective of what it was, but I feel like I was really put to the test.
Yeah.
Which again was a good thing. But yeah, so I had to do like different types of color. I had to do like creative color. I had to do natural foils.
So
like,
you weren't just doing something for
classic
cutting, because
foils.
now you specialize in
No.
cutting.
Yeah, now I'm only a cutter. But that was my choice. I always didn't like color. Numbers are not my thing.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit of a control freak, so I don't like the fact that with color sometimes you can do absolutely everything right and it just
still
doesn't work,
happen,
and you look like a dick, and it's not even your fault. And it's like, it's, you know, there's so many contributing factors with color, but with cutting, it is all me, and I can't make any other excuses for a mistake other than me. So I feel like I've got a lot more control over what I'm doing.
It's funny how
cutting
people
and styling
gravitate to such different things. Like for me, I love color, and that's what I love, and you love cutting, and and now you I don't know what the word is, like brand yourself as a short hair and men's specialist. Like, is that what you enjoy doing the most?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, well, once I got the job at Rock Ebony, obviously after my technical trial, I think I left my, after my 12 models, I got a phone call like a few days later, and I was mid full head of foils, and I literally just stopped foiling, grabbed my phone and ran down Burke Street in Campbell to answer my phone. Came back and was like, I got the job, by the way, I quit. Like, it was amazing. Anyway, so I started that job, and I was doing both cutting and color when I started at Rock Ebony. Okay. I started as a stylist, and I did both and did a lot of training. So I was working 6 days a week because I was doing training for blow waving on Mondays, cutting on Tuesdays, and color on Wednesdays, or
so you were going through their training program, even though you're qualified, even though, you still have to go through their training program.
Yes. And I went through it really, like I did that for a year. So 1 day a week I worked in my own time that I didn't get paid for. And then the other 2 days a week I got paid for. But I basically did my entire apprenticeship again, which I wanted to do. I had no issues with that at all. Firstly, I was like, you're gonna pay me to go to school again? That was the best time of my life. Like, absolutely. I love going to training, and I would do it in my own time any day of the week. At my old salon, when I needed to do training or anything, I had to pay for it myself, and I had to do it in my own time. So the fact that I was going to get it for free and do it in work hours, I was like, this is the best news of my life. So I trained for everything, and I got to the point where I was going to get promoted to a principal colorist, and I was like, but I hate color. I was like, I don't want to be a principal colorist. I want to be a principal stylist. I was like, I don't want to be a colorist. And Joe was like, well, what are you doing all this color training for? I was like, I don't know, because I thought I had to. And then, he was like, well, we're not going to waste any more time doing this then. And then that day he just started taking all the colors out of my
well, that is enough of that.
Yeah, pretty much. But I replaced them with cuts, obviously. But and I started directing my clients that I brought with me to the salon to other people, and it just filled up my time with cutting. So I do short hair and men's mainly because I like it the most. I like it the most because I think a lot of people can't do it. At the time I had short hair, and I had short hair for such a long time that I really understand what it's like to get a really shitty short haircut.
I used to feel like that with blondes because I was always blonde, that I was like, I know I do a mean blonde because I know what I would like and not like what you have on yourself a lot of times dictates what you're good at or what you enjoy doing, because you want to make the person who's like you feel good.
So short hair, I think I wasn't scared to do it. When other people, especially at Rock Ebony, I noticed when I started there, everybody, I think because it is such a high standard of work, like I'd come from a place where I'd be like, I can do that, let's wing it. Whereas, and I came into Rock Ebony with that attitude as well, which a lot of people didn't have remember there was one day where one of our clients just decided she was gonna, after having a keratin straightening treatment for 6 hours, decided that she wanted a pixie cut. And everybody else was like, nah, can't do it. Oh my God, no, I can't do it. And I was
Why
like,
do you think
I'll
that
do
is
it.
that so many people don't do short hair? Like, why
I
are they
don't
afraid to
understand
do
it.
it?
I don't understand. I think I mean, a short haircut is final. Like, once you're done and the hair's gone, you can't undo it.
Yeah.
Like, so you need to be really sure that you aren't going to mess it up. I don't know. I've just always, I think maybe because I'm good at art, I don't know, maybe because I know that my hands connect to my eyes. Like, I can see what I'm doing and I can just do it.
Yeah. And other people don't have that confidence.
There's never been a time where and I don't think I think I just trust my hands can do what I'm doing. Like, I've never had a time where I've been like, oh, I don't know, a bit nervous about this. It's with cutting. Color, absolutely. Like, I never really, I was never like, I could do color, but I was not passionate about it. So, you know, all the time I'd just be hoping for the best, you know, whack it on because I like that color. And I didn't enjoy it at all. I ran behind all the time. I did my worst work on the
Story
top
of
because
my
I was
life.
tired and listening to everybody else's conversations. Like, I'd get to the foil and be like, oh yeah, that's right, we were foiling. Like, it's just not, it's not my thing at all.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And when you said that you didn't, like, when you're going to do your trial, you're like, I didn't have the technical aspect, I had the visual aspect. Yeah. Where do you feel like that came in, that you got the technical stuff through your training, through that year at Rock, like understanding?
Yeah, so
that's the thing that puts me off of cutting now. Like, I didn't understand that technical aspect either. Like, I got short pushed long, or if that's even right.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I knew things, but I didn't know things in the way that I knew color. And then as I stuck with color for so long and now being put into cutting, I'm like, I can cut, but I don't understand the technical part. And I'm not like, oh, well, taking weight out here or this or that, I can give you a basic haircut, but there's so much more to cutting that people don't realize, like the difference between a haircut that's okay and like it looks good to the person versus a haircut that you're doing is like next level, because there's so many components in it that people just don't realize. And that's why I'm like, I'm not gonna cut now when I can just do this average haircut, whereas you would do it and take weight out and texturize and personalize and all this stuff that I would just be cutting a line.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm just trying to work out what to say. So I got most of my my technical knowledge from, well, that training with Rock Ebony really helped. The teacher that I had there was awesome. But I still think that I really, oh, your face is gone. Are you, hello?
Savvy, here.
You're back. Yeah, so I got my technical knowledge from Rock Ebony, but I still feel like I sort of breezed over it a bit. Like, I didn't really, I knew what I was doing, and I feel like as I kept learning, I was doing all the things that I needed to do to create certain shapes, and I did that without knowing, because I'm a really visual person. But I never knew the reason why that worked, or I never knew how to explain it to somebody else what I was doing. Like, I didn't know the degrees of the angles of what makes what. From my eye, I could see that this is a layer and this is graduation, but I didn't know the reason why. Like, I didn't know that it was, 45 degrees here and 90 degrees here and above the 90. And that was stuff that I never learned. I just could fluke it because my eye can see that. And it's stuff that I'd been doing all this time that I'd worked out, being like, oh, okay, if I want my fringe to go this way, I'll pull it this way and cut it that way. And then when I let it go, look what happens. Like, that was how I did my, so when I came to Rock Ebony and I was learning all these things, I was getting taught a lot of different ways. And I think I was someone who is quite annoying to teachers as well. I know we did some training with some people from Adelaide, that was like Vidal Sassoon training, and I was the person who was like, but why? but why? But why? But why?
That
But why?
is me. Colum is like,
Yeah.
do you have
I
to
don't
say
get it.
why
I don't get
to
it.
everything?
Like,
I'm like, but
yeah.
why? I can't know it
Yeah.
unless I know why.
100%. And that's kind of the way that I'm teaching now. And I think, especially for that Vidal Sassoon training, I think the teacher that I had thought that I was a bit of an idiot, to be honest, because I kept saying, I don't understand. Can you explain it again? I don't understand. Can you explain it again? Over and over again. And then all of a sudden I could do it.
Because
I
you
remember him
asked.
being like,
If you just
did
watched
you
it
actually
and
do this?
Yeah.
And he was like, did you do this? Really? You did this? Like, couldn't quite understand it. But I don't like doing things, and I don't think that anybody should cut hair. And I'm really passionate these days about making sure that hair cutters don't just cut hair because they've been told this is how you cut a straight line. Like, every single thing that you do should have a purpose, and that's my like main thing that I'm trying to teach.
What you kind of
today.
didn't get taught, do you think? Like, you're
what
trying
I didn't get taught, but things that helped me understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, I didn't know any of the technical stuff,
and could have
when I
maybe
was learning
sped
to
you
cut.
up had you known that. You would have been so much better sooner, kind of, had you known those things earlier.
Yeah, definitely. But also, like, I did things for reasons, not just because I was told to do them. Like, when I would think about haircuts, I'd be like, okay, well, I remember when I had a short haircut and that bit behind my ear really used to bunch up and shit me. So when I would cut it, other people's hair, I would make sure that I didn't do that, that I made sure I took weight out of that place, that those things that would annoy me. I didn't know what the technical reason for that was. I didn't know that it was because of, different bones and stuff like that, but I did it because that was my reason why,
Yeah.
So I think combining the way that I learned to cut with the education that I now have, which, to be honest, I only really learned a lot of that real technical stuff that actually stuck in my mind. I did the meat and potatoes course last year with Little Off the Top.
Yeah.
And
me too.
I did that course. Yes, it was the most amazing
So
course.
I'm not
Loved
executing anything. I do, and I do it on, like, if anybody who gets a haircut, even, a little man, he is the Victoria's Secret fringe. The little triangle, and then you do the little triangle and you go back. That's the only thing I, like, do. So good for you that you remembered it all.
Yeah, well, I mean, I took that course as kind of for a different reason that everybody else in the course was there for, but the reason that I took the course was because I wanted to learn how to teach what I was doing, because education is where I really want to go. I kind of got lost a little bit in between there. Like, I've been at Rock Academy for 6.5 years now, so I sort of progressed, through the steps: stylist to principal stylist to style director. I was an educator for blow waving for a year, which was really challenging, actually. I thought educating was quite easy.
It's not.
And
it's not because
I was doing
you get
really well.
different people in your class. Like, you might be able to teach me to blow wave, no problem, but you can't teach Matt to do it. Like, he doesn't get it, and then I can't teach you then. Like, it's just, it is a lot harder and more frustrating, I think, than maybe people are aware.
I think I'd had a lot of my confidence in teaching built up when I was in my sort of first years, when I was just in the salon teaching people that were in the salon. And I think I got really lucky with the people that I was teaching were very naturally gifted at what they were doing, and made me look really good.
For you.
Yeah, they made me look so good. And when I started teaching blow waving, and I was getting, you learn blow waving as your first thing out of doing the books in trade school. It's the first time you touch hair. So that was a real struggle. That was the day that I would go home and be exhausted.
Yeah.
I would go and hide at the little Vietnamese shop at lunchtime in the back corner, just so I could have an hour of being like,
But I think that that's good for people to know, who are seeing you and being like, oh, just, as an educator and this, and this. And it's like, to hear you being like, I didn't fully love it in the beginning, or, didn't find my thing, is quite helpful, I think, to people who think that just is something that you just love,
I mean, that exhausted me so much that I I had a year off teaching after that. I just thought, no, this is not for me. And then I kind of, because I didn't know what else I was going to do, that was always the plan. I always wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And once I did that, I didn't know what I was going to do, to be honest. Owning a salon's never been something that I would ever want to do, I don't think. I mean, you know, never say never, that might change, but at this point I couldn't think of anything worse.
I was the same.
I was saying to my manager the other day, I'm not a team player. Like, I'm just not very good at having other people be responsible for my success. And that's does, you know, it is at my detriment sometimes, because I'm always taking control and don't let anybody else help me do anything. But I don't like when other people don't put in as much effort as I have. And it annoys me,
because it is a lot of effort that people don't realize. You know, the background time of educating and planning your lesson or your photo shoot, and you know, all the things that go into it behind the scenes is a lot of work that it doesn't just come. And I think people, that was something we talked about before, being like, we want to make sure that, you know, we're getting this point across that you have to work for it. And it is a lot of free hours. And that's something that I still struggle with sometimes, being like, why is it so acceptable in our industry to do so much work for free? Like, you know, a tradie wouldn't go and do all this free work. Like, why do we do it so much? But it is part of it, and it is, you do have to do it.
Yeah, absolutely, you have to do it. I think you kind of have to prove yourself before anyone's going to pay you to do it. Unfortunately, in Australia, hairdressing is seen as like, you know, the female job to drop out of school with, and not everyone, and it shouldn't be that shouldn't be what it is, but the vast majority of people think that way. Especially in Turak, where we work, like, we have some beautiful clients, but as a whole we're really seen as, you know, the hired help. So a lot of people have no idea the different avenues you can go into. And even educating, you know, back when I went to school at Box Hill, it was like, if you were a teacher, it was because you weren't very good at hairdressing.
Yes, it's like, you know, those who can't teach, but it's not true.
Absolutely. Whereas at Rock Ebony, when I went there, at Rock Ebony, it was the best ones teach, and that was really amazing for me. I did a course with American Crew when I just finished my apprenticeship with Phoenix, who, you know, is so high up in American Crew now. She's amazing. And I remember going to that course and thinking, that's what I want to do.
How do I be
that's
her?
Where I'm going to be. Yeah. When I was, you know, I was nominated for a HBA apprenticeship award, and they said, you know, where do you see yourself? Like, what's your ultimate goal? And that seemed like my absolute ultimate goal. Like, that was, having that job just seemed like the coolest job in the world.
And does it really kind of flabbergast you a bit that, like, now you are in that role, kind of like that you are teaching? So how did you end up getting into teaching from being on the floor? Did they say, oh, Jess, you're great, do you want to teach at the academy? Did you ask them, like, how did this kind of happen now that you're teaching? Because you're developing the education program for Rock Ebony right now, correct?
Yeah, one of them, yes. So
how did you go from being like, oh, I want to be her, this is my dream, to now you are kind of doing this? Like, that's the point of these conversations.
So I mean, everything that I have is because I am lucky in the positions that I've ended up in, but everything that I've gotten, I haven't just been given. You know, when I started at Rock Ebony, we would always have meetings with all the managers and, you know, say where we want to be with set goals. Like, it was a constant thing. And then by the next meeting, you had to see what goals you'd gotten to. And okay, well then what's your next goals and next goals? And which is awesome, because it's kind of like school, which I quite liked. It wasn't just a standard job. So after I did the blow waving, I was kind of a bit like, oh God, what am I going to do? I have no idea. Like, don't know where I'm going to be. And I was really flat. And then I was, you know, I really put my head down and thought about it. And I was like, you know what? You wanted to be a teacher all this time. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why aren't you doing it? Like, why are you getting mixed up on this just because it got a little bit hard? So I yeah, I could see how many people were coming out of, you know, the training that was happening at the moment. The school that they go to at the moment isn't the same TAFE that I went to. And it's, you know, people are coming out a little bit deflated. They're not really understanding what's going on. And I love school so much that
it's bothering you
I
seeing
can't
them like
understand it. And it blows my mind that people would rather fake a sickie and clean than go to school. It blows my mind. So there's so many people, like, even when I was teaching blow waving, that, oh, you know, my ankle's sore and my cat's, you know, got the flu, so I can't come in. Like, and I'd be like, but this is supposed to be the best day of the week. Like, I don't get it. So that was kind of my push. And I thought, all right, well, I need to teach myself what I need to teach first, which is why I did the Little Off the Top course, which was amazing. I learnt so much from that class, and I'm supposed to be at the top ranking of my salon. Like, I'm a style director, so I'm supposed to be the high end, and I still learnt so much from that course. And I think not having an ego is the best thing, and the biggest, most important thing in hairdressing is to just, everybody can learn something no matter what level you're at. So yeah, I loved that course. I came back and brought it to the directors, and they, you know, they obviously allowed me to do the course for that time, and put me into it so I could do that. And I came back and worked with the directors to set it up for Rock Ebony. We didn't copy that course at all. It's quite different what we do, but it was more for me to just learn some technical knowledge. Sometimes it's just also
lighting that fire in you. It's not so much like what you learned is what you're teaching, what you learned in how it's presented, how visuals are done, how the structure, like, there's so many things that as someone who educates, when you go to a class, you take away something completely different than somebody who doesn't educate at all. Like, when I'm going, I'm being like, you didn't even introduce yourself. Like, you know, little things like that that I'm like, or you didn't give me just format and things like that I think that you would be now implementing into your own structure, and by things that you learned from being in a full course again. Re-inspires you know?
I didn't feel like before I did that course that I had the knowledge to be able to take other people's careers into my own hands. Now I do feel like I can do that. I mean, I still feel like I'm at the beginning of my career, and I am, like, compared to, there's so many people that have so much more experience than me, and, you know, that I look up to and I want to be like now, like, absolutely. And yeah, when I hear these people that know my name, like even Tom that taught that course, you know, he knew who I was. Like, he was like, oh yeah, you're Rock Jess, like, from Rock Ebony. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, so
it's wild, isn't it, that when we come in, we come into this industry with our eyes wide open, and we're like, oh my God, I want to be. For me, I went to this show in New Orleans, and I saw Sonia Dove on stage, and I just, like, I cried. Like, I've talked about this before, but I was crying because I was like, oh my God, like, I just want to do this. Like, and now that we're getting there, and I'm like, talking to people about how they got to the point of what their dream was. Like, I just want everybody to be able to understand that it's doable and it's feasible. And you saw somebody teaching your men's cutting class and was like, oh my God, I'd love to be doing that. And now you are doing it because that's the point. Like, you can do it, you know, and we're still not even at the peak. Like, we still are so new. Like, imagine, you know, we get to have this conversation again.
Absolutely. And I know, like, aside from the educating side of things, which I'm so happy that I'm finally doing, like, the competition side of things, you know, I remember in my interview when I started at Rock Ebony, Joe said, where do you see yourself? Like, what's your ultimate goal? And I said, Australian Hairdresser of the Year.
Yeah.
And he was like, that's a big call. Like, he's like, you know what you have to do to get there. You know that you have to network, you know that you have to do this. And to be honest, the scariest thing about all of those things in the industry for me is the networking side of things. I don't like going out and talking. I'm not a big drinker. I'm not a big partier. And I think in a hairdressing industry, people that drink and party, that's how they get to know each other. A lot of the time, like, it really helps. Like, as much
stumbling home from Hair Expo at 6 a.m.
Exactly right. And that's the industry. And I mean, you shouldn't have to do that, and you don't have to do that. But
No.
the funny thing is that really does help. Like, it really does help.
Helps,
So
but it can hinder, you know. There's a
like,
time
I'm
when
not
I may, you
someone,
know,
yeah,
have gone too
absolutely. No. But like, the scariest part about any of it for me is the fact that I would have to walk up into a room to somebody that I admire and actually have to have a conversation with them. Like, you know, my favorite part about COVID is that I get to wear masks to the supermarket, so I don't have to smile or speak to anyone. Like, I'm loving it sick.
Oh, that's so funny. Whereas
Yeah,
I'm having the
that's
opposite situation, and I'm like,
yeah,
how can I start a talk show so I can talk to
yeah,
people? Because I'm like,
exactly.
I'm the opposite. I think my gift
Yeah,
is my gab, and I'm like,
yeah,
how can I utilize this? And
yeah.
that's so
Whereas,
funny how it's so different for
yeah,
different people.
yeah, like, I'm so glad that you're doing this, because you're having conversations with all the people I would die to talk to that would never ever build up the courage to do it. So I can just
I
listen
love
to
it.
what you're saying.
Thank you.
And I think, like, everybody says that when they start at the salon, that they're always terrified of me because I have like this resting bitch face apparently. But I'm like, I'm really nice. I just don't like talking to people.
I'm just
like,
coming to do
and
my
that,
work, though. Yeah.
yeah, like, that was my hardest thing in my apprenticeship. I remember everything I used to like, and even when I started at Rock Ebony, flying colors, everything else was, you know, you're a star employee, but you need to talk to your clients more. You need to talk more. You need to talk more. You need to talk more. That was always my feedback.
Which I think is a yes and no. Like, I think the clients who I remember, same thing from my old salon. There's specific stylists that were really quiet, but those clients like going to those people because they're the quiet clients. They're the ones who maybe have this job that they want to go and sit and shush, and you're the perfect person for them. And sometimes people want to not even have the best hair and chat, and they'll come to me.
Yeah, absolutely right.
If they have all day and are not in a rush, they'll come to me.
Yeah, exactly.
If they want a great haircut and quiet, they'll go to you.
Yeah, I'm the person that walks into a surf shop, and if they say, "Hey babe, how you going? What are you doing this weekend?" I'm like, out. Like, I don't even respond. I just run. Like, I don't shop at, you know, surf, dive and ski or jetty surf or any of those places because they do that. Yeah, so I thought that was going to be really difficult doing all the competitions and stuff. And yeah, I'm trying to think where we're up to.
Well, I would just like to go before, you know, we're wrapping. I think we've had good chat about the education and getting into those things, but you have a major accolade that we haven't talked about, which is your AHFA Newcomer of the Year. That was just so amazing. And I think that is, it may not be Australian Hairdresser of the Year, but it's in that dream and that goal and that category of being like, that's where I want to go. Getting that is just as much. Like, do you think? Like, I know you're probably still like, no, I still want to be Australian Hairdresser of the Year, but that's the moment. That's the thing. And that's the when we enter and we get into the hair world, or you work at a Rock Ebony and you see them doing shoots and stuff, it seems unattainable. And here you are and you've done it. And
that was amazing. I mean, I was just saying before, I'm just trying to think how I even got into competitions. I don't really even know. Like, the first salons that I was working at, if I entered competitions, I had to pay to enter, and, you know, they're not cheap. They cost, you know, a minimum of $80 an entry. To enter AHFA is, you know, $300 to enter.
Plus the cost of the shoot.
So back then, plus the cost of the shoot.
Yeah.
That's just the entry fee. So, I mean, I used to do it anyway, and save my money when I was at the other salons. But when I came to Rock Ebony, obviously they fund all of that stuff for people that they think deserve to enter. So I'd entered once before, and I didn't place or anything. I didn't get a finalist, but I was really happy with my collection. And to be honest, even that collection has been printed probably more than my winning collection in so many magazines.
How cool. And do you enter those into the like, do you send it to whatever magazine's printed, or how does it end up getting printed?
No. So the salon sends it to, I can't remember for the life of me what the company is, but there's like a company that the salon, like an agency that distributes it for a certain amount of time.
Oh, cool.
So, and every time it gets printed, they send you the covers, or they send you the magazine, or they, send you the
cool.
website.
Yeah.
So they tell you how long it's running for and what it's, what's going on. But yeah, my AHFA collection, I'm just trying to think. The one that I won, I was at a time in my life where I was, my personal life was really flat, and I'd just come out of a breakup, and I just wasn't myself whatsoever. And I'd come out of this, and my shoot was 2 weeks afterwards, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to put all of my time and energy into this. And it was great therapy for me as well. And I remember my one of my bosses, Pina, was helping me on the day as well, and she said to me, like, babe, we're going to rock this, like,
yeah,
it's going to be amazing. And I had such a good team of people, which I think is the most important thing about winning these awards. Like, you can't win these trophies on your own. You cannot. Like,
goosebumps.
No, you can't. Like, the times that I've done well in these competitions is when the team of people I've had are so strong.
Yeah.
And I have pretty much hired people to be on my team that are amazing at what they do. And you just have to trust those people to bring it.
And I think that's what can deter people from entering. Say, your first year on the floor or something, and you're not familiar with the world of shoots, that it can be very intimidating, being like, oh my God, I have to dress them and do makeup. And you don't realize that you get people to do that, I think, or maybe I didn't, but that is so important that you have to have this vision of what you want, and then you have to find the right people who can bring it to life. And that, I think that's what deters people from doing it, because it seems like too much. Like, I don't have a vision for wardrobe. I have this idea of what I want to do for hair, but I don't really know anything else about it. And it stops you from doing it because you think it's too hard or too out of your element or something.
Yeah. And any time that I've done something where I've tried to be responsible for the whole shoot, it's been a flop, because I can barely dress myself, let alone people for a magazine. And makeup, like, I can do my one face and that's it. Like, where I've said to the, whatever it is, even color. And I know for one of my collections, you did the colors, and I just said, do what you think, because that's your job.
Yeah.
And, obviously I said before, I'm a control freak, and that's really difficult for me, but you've got to have a team behind you that you really trust. And for the collection that I won, I really did. Like, my stylist, I basically said, you pick what you think. Like, this is my vibe. This is what I'm going with. This is my hair that I'm providing. Yeah. What do you think? The photographer, the same. The colorist was the same for that collection. I didn't really have a colorist that I was really close with at that time. So most of the color in that collection, if people notice I shoot in black and white a lot, it's because I haven't really had a colorist that's wanted to do that kind of work. A lot of my color in that collection was done with eyeshadow. So it's not actually hair color. It's me with a paintbrush, or, we were putting it on with eyeshadow, and the chalk that makes your hair white or dark. Yeah. To look like I'd foiled it, or to look like
that
I'd
was
deepened the
something
roots
that
and
I learned. I have just spoken to Caroline Gahan, who does a lot of avant-garde shoots, and she was and when I think of her work, I think of colorful and bright and all this stuff, and she loves shooting in black and white for that reason too. Like, that's how she will go shopping for clothes, is put her phone on black and white. So to see how it shows up, I'm like, I would have never thought about it. It's such a good point. And you're right, you do the black and white because that's an element kind of that you can take away a little bit from the effort.
100%. And what else was I going to say? Don't know, that's gone. But
the teams, like having the right people.
Oh yes, having the team. The team is the main thing to have. I've done collections since where my team was a little bit shaky, and it's nobody's fault. But if you employ people to do the job that aren't really as passionate as what you are, then you're not going to get a good result. Yeah. My other collection, which is actually probably my more prouder moment than winning Newcomer of the Year, to be honest. Like, winning Newcomer of the Year was amazing. I love trophies. It was the best thing that could have happened to me at that time in my life. Like, it just really showed me that, you know what, if you just be you and you put all your effort into what's important to you, look what you can do. And I wasn't doing that before.
Yeah.
And it was a real, it was a game changer for me. But
and to get the trophy, like that's the, you have a
to
trophy. Like
get the trophy.
I was
That's
told being a hairdresser was shit, and now look, I have a trophy, and I got to give a speech like I won a Grammy.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Like people say to me, why do you do all this work in your spare time? And like all these competitions, like they cost the companies thousands of dollars, like thousands and thousands. Like to have a photographer for the day at the level of the photographer that they have costs thousands of dollars. Without them, it would not be possible for me to do this. I just could not afford it, no matter how good I am.
Yeah.
But people say to me, why do you do this? And I was like, because I like trophies. Like, that's the reason. It actually is the reason. I like that. That's the reason. But yeah, my most proud moment of my career has actually been getting finalist for the Hair Expo Master Cutter of the Year. And I didn't win that category. I didn't expect to win because I was, it was my first year ever entering Hair Expo.
Yeah.
And the caliber of people that I was up against,
stiff competition in that.
It was unreal. Like I could not believe that I made the top 6 in Australia and New Zealand amongst people that were my absolute idols, like Lyndall Salmon and Jules Tognini and Dimitri Pappas. Like I think he won that year, but all of these people are so established. Like I was by far the least experienced in that category. And the fact that I didn't come out with a trophy, like all I got was the piece of paper that was in my chocolate bar to say I was a finalist. But that was the best part of my career,
because you're being put in the caliber of
people
that was who
Absolutely.
made you want to do this, and the people that you want to be like, and the people that the reason I'm talking to these people on the calls is because I want to make it attainable, and that these people are not these celebrities. It's doable, and you got into the category with the people that you are trying to be. That's why it's the moment for you, whether you won or not, because you hit the goal of being in that circle of doing it. And it's just, I love it. I love it.
So that's the win for me. Like people keep coming up and saying, oh, better luck next time to be on that. And I was like, I won. Like all I wanted in my whole career was to say that I could be alongside those people, and I got there. So, I mean, Hair Expo is not a thing anymore. It's apparently being discontinued, which is devastating.
My biggest social event of the year.
I know, it's so devastating, and I only got to go. I said that I would be able to justify how much it costs to go to something like this if I got into the finals. That was always my thing, and I did in its final year. So like I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish with that. Obviously, everyone says you should strive for more, you should strive to be the winner, but honestly, being a finalist was my win. So I'm just sad that other people aren't going to be able to experience that now. That's gone. But
I reckon the thing that's really great about this industry is the fact that through lockdown and through everything, all these. You cutting out?
Is your microphone playing up? It sounds a bit fuzzy.
Let me open the door 1 second. Maybe the Wi-Fi will be better. Hang on.
Okay.
Better? Technical difficulties.
Guys. Yeah, I just don't know if the sound's recording.
It's cutting
fuzzy.
out, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when we just had a little technical difficulty yet again, guys, we're hairdressers, and I'm just trying to learn to be this microphone person. But we were saying that Hair Expo getting canceled is such a disappointing thing to think that people won't have that opportunity or that career peak moment. But I think the thing that will come out of this, like something else will come from it.
Yeah, definitely.
Hair Expo something will get invented in that.
You're going in and out. Yeah. That's better. Hello?
Yeah. I think it's the microphone. Is that okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
That through COVID and through all of that happening, we came up with these education platforms, and Aftermath was created. And, the industry, if you're in this industry, you love it. If you're entering the competitions, if you're going to the shows, if you're wanting to teach, it's because you love it. And that's what I love the most about this industry, is that there's so much more than being behind the chair if you want there to be.
Absolutely.
And it's fine for the people who don't, and they can be just as good of a hairdresser and just as passionate, but it's a whole different world when you get into what we love doing.
Absolutely. I would do this for free. Like that, none of the competitions or any of that side of it, aside from behind the chair, like cutting hair, the rest of it I would do in my own time, and I do a lot for free in my own time. And I love it, and I wouldn't change anything about it.
Love it.
A lot of people don't understand that, but
I think so too. Like, even, I don't know, I'll come home and I've worked all day and I'm on my phone and I'm watching hair tutorials, and Colin's like, switch it off, like just, I can't even do his accent for the life of me, but he's like, just turn it off. Like, I don't understand how you can just continue to be watching it. And I'm like, I love it. Like, there's nothing else I would want to be doing than sitting on my phone watching someone put a foil in. Like, that's what I love.
And it's so important that you have a partner as well that understands that, because it's hard to explain to people that aren't in this industry what you are doing and why you are working for free and why it takes up so much of your spare time. And it's amazing though. Wouldn't change a thing.
Love it. Well, anything else you feel like on a final note that what's next? Or
no, I just want to, what's next for me is pretty much just continuing what we're doing. Once, everything's back to normal, and just diving into it again, coming back. I didn't realize how much I would miss photo shoots and everything until it was taken away. So I'm really excited to start the new year and, go as hard as I possibly can at all of this stuff.
And I think we're also willing to do that too. We've had time off that we would never have had any, especially for us.
Absolutely.
People who have had time off who work from home, they're still working. Like, I know it's not great for anybody, but for us working from home, it's not a thing. Like, and so I just want to go guns a-blazing back in. Like, I never want a day off again. Like, well, I do. I would like to go home.
Me either.
I'd like to go home.
I've already said that. Cancel all my annual leave. I'm done. Like, that's it.
We just
it's given me a lot of clarity in what I want to do. It's actually, it's been quite good having the time off. As boring as it may be, it's really made me hungry to, get where I want to be.
And given the time to do
reset and start again.
Love it. Well, I think that
reset and
good conversation with you, and I really liked maybe that we didn't even get into so much of the photo shoots and the education, but how you got into it, because I think that is the main big step that holds people back. Is it seems too intimidating, and I think we really dove into doing the groundwork, and that you didn't start at Rock Ebony. You had 5 years or whatever before, and I think that that's really important. I think that that's really valuable information for somebody coming into it.
Yeah, definitely. I was trying to think of all the things that you wanted to cover in this and try and make sure I covered them all, but
no, it's amazing. That's perfect.
It's pretty good.
I love it. And that's why I don't like doing too much prep. Like, I just want to have a conversation with somebody that I would want to be having a conversation with anyway, and then see where it goes. And it, we'll touch back. And
this podcast is amazing. I think it's going to help a lot of people and motivate a lot of people as well.
Thank you. That is thank you.
I know it's motivated me. I know I sat up all night listening to your first one the other day. So.
Oh my God, I'm so glad.
Very exciting. 3:30 in the morning.
Nobody listens to this. Like, oh, well, I don't really care because I want to know this stuff anyway. So at least if someone listens to it and likes it, then we're doing something right and it's given us something to do. Amazing. Okay, Jess, well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Loved it.
Thank you.